She thought saying no would be enough. But when her lecturer threatened her future for sex, she set a trap. The footage shook the campus. He was suspended, then returned with just one phone call. That's when she realized she wasn't fighting a man. She was fighting a monster built by power, silence, and corruption. And she was done playing nice. From the moment Chidinma stepped into Gracefield University, she had a quiet confidence that made her stand out. She wasn't loud or flashy, but her natural beauty, polished demeanor, and sharp mind made people take notice. Some admired her, others envied her, and a few, especially men in power, wanted to control her. But Chidinma wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here to graduate with first class and leave a legacy for her younger siblings back in Enugu. She kept to herself most of the time, moving between her lectures and her off-campus apartment with precision. Her friends often joked that she was too serious for her own good, but she didn't mind. She had seen how easy it was to get distracted, how girls like her often ended up as cautionary tales. She refused to be one of them. Everything she did was intentional, from how she dressed, to who she spoke with, to the way she carried herself in class. She was used to the stares, the whispers, the assumptions. She had mastered the art of ignoring them. But nothing could prepare her for what was coming. Nothing could prepare her for Dr. Kenneth Ajayi. He was charming, intelligent, and highly respected in the Department of Political Science. Students spoke his name with fear and admiration. He had influence, connections, and a reputation for favoring certain female students. Chidinma had always kept her distance, hoping she could stay invisible to his gaze. But that semester, her final year, her project was assigned under his supervision. And from the very first meeting, she felt it. The way he looked at her wasn't academic. It was personal. Their first project meeting took place in his office. The walls were lined with academic certificates and shelves full of political science journals. Yet, as Chidinma sat across from him, she couldn't help but notice how his eyes kept drifting, not to her paperwork, but to her neckline. She had worn a simple blouse and jeans, nothing flashy. But somehow, she still felt exposed. She cleared her throat and focused on explaining her research topic, hoping to steer the atmosphere back to professionalism. Dr. Ajayi smiled, that same slow, unsettling grin she'd seen him give to other girls in class. "Your topic is quite bold. Just like you," he said, his tone dripping with double meaning. She forced a polite laugh and nodded. "Thank you, sir." He leaned forward slightly. "I've had students like you before. Smart, confident, beautiful. But sometimes, beauty can be a distraction, don't you think?" She didn't answer. He was testing her, feeling out her boundaries. She quickly excused herself, promising to send a revised outline by email. Outside the office, her heart pounded. She told herself maybe she was overreacting. Maybe he was just being awkward. But her instinct screamed otherwise. She had seen this pattern before, not with her, but with others. Girls who started full of promise and ended up withdrawn, quiet, no longer shining. Some suddenly dropped courses. Others left the university entirely. She had ignored the rumors, but now she was living the experience firsthand. And deep down, she feared she might be his next target. Chidinma tried to brush it off. She focused on her coursework and spent more time at the library instead of visiting Dr. Ajayi's office. But avoiding him only made him more persistent. He started sending her messages at odd hours, compliments about her presentation, her confidence, and how she had a rare aura. One night, just after midnight, he texted, "You must get a lot of attention from men. I hope you know how to use your beauty wisely." She felt sick reading it. This wasn't guidance. This wasn't mentorship. This was grooming, slow and deliberate. She took screenshots and deleted the messages. Still, the pressure grew. During class, he would linger after lectures, subtly motioning for her to stay behind. She always found an excuse to leave. Then one afternoon, he summoned her again, this time under the pretense of reviewing her chapter drafts. She almost didn't go, but she knew that refusing could be twisted against her later. When she entered his office, the door clicked shut behind her. This time, there was no desk between them. He stood closer, his eyes scanning her slowly. "Chidinma," he said, "you're one of the brightest students I've seen in years. You deserve the best, and I can help you get it. All you have to do is trust me completely." She felt her body tense. There it was, the offer without the words, the threat without the warning. She met his gaze and forced a smile. "I'll think about it, sir." Then she walked out, not just from the office, but from the silence she had been keeping. She was done ignoring the signs. She needed a plan, because now it was war. That evening, Chidinma sat alone in her room, replaying everything. The stares, the messages, the suggestions that weren't quite threats, but weren't innocent either. Her stomach twisted in knots. She could report him, yes, but to who? The school management. Most of them dined with men like Dr. Ajayi. A few girls who had spoken up in the past had either mysteriously disappeared from campus or were branded as liars and attention seekers. She needed more than words. She needed evidence. She called Ada, her closest friend in the media department. If anyone could help her build a case quietly, it was Ada, sharp, resourceful, and fiercely loyal. After listening to everything, Ada didn't hesitate. "We'll catch him in his own game," she said. "But you have to be ready. This won't be easy." Chidinma nodded. "I'm ready. I just need this to end, for me and for every other girl he's targeted." Next, they brought in Deo, Ada's boyfriend, who served on the student welfare committee. He had access to internal processes and could help push the case if it ever reached the school disciplinary board. They all agreed on one thing. Dr. Ajayi was too powerful to confront head-on. They needed to catch him in the act, something undeniable, something the university couldn't bury. That night, they outlined the plan. It would take time, patience, and risk. Chidinma would be the bait, and the trap would be a hotel room wired with hidden cameras and microphones. Ada would control the equipment from a nearby car. Deo would be their backup, ready to involve the student union if needed. It was risky, but this time, Chidinma refused to be the hunted. She was going to hunt. Chidinma didn't sleep much that night. The plan played in her head on repeat, and the weight of what she was about to do settled heavy on her chest. But she reminded herself, this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about all the other girls who had walked into Dr. Ajayi's office and walked out with shame, fear, or worse. If no one stopped him, he would keep going. The next day, she replied to one of his lingering messages. "Can we talk? Maybe somewhere private." She hesitated before hitting send, her finger trembling. Within minutes, his response came. "Of course, Chidinma. I've been waiting for you to come around. Name the place." The bile rose in her throat, but she smiled through it. "There's a hotel off campus, quiet and discreet. Tomorrow evening. I'll text you the address." She showed the texts to Ada and Deo. "Perfect," Ada whispered. "This is exactly the kind of thing that'll expose him. He's too comfortable, too careless." They quickly booked the hotel room under a fake name and installed 2 hidden cameras, one in a table lamp and the other in the curtain rod. A wireless MIC was placed beneath the bed frame, just in case he whispered anything incriminating. Chidinma rehearsed her role all evening. She had to play along just enough to keep him unsuspecting, but not too much that she'd put herself at risk. It wasn't acting. It was survival. By the time night fell, everything was in place. All that was left was to see if the predator would take the bait. The evening air was heavy as Chidinma stepped out of the cab and walked toward the small hotel on the outskirts of town. Her heart thudded in her chest, not from fear, not entirely, but from the weight of what was about to happen. She wore a simple black dress, modest enough to not look suspicious, but enough to keep Dr. Ajayi interested. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her phone, silently praying everything would go according to plan. Ada and Deo were stationed in a car just outside, monitoring the camera feeds through a laptop. Ada's eyes didn't leave the screen. "He's coming," she said through Chidinma's earpiece. "Blue shirt, black jeans. He's walking in now." Chidinma took a deep breath and steadied herself. She walked up to the receptionist, took the key to room 204, and went up alone. The room was small, clean, and dimly lit, the perfect trap. 15 minutes later, a knock came at the door. Chidinma opened it, her smile forced but steady. Dr. Ajayi stepped in, closing the door behind him slowly. "You look breathtaking," he said, eyeing her hungrily. "I knew you'd come around." She sat on the edge of the bed, her heart pounding. "I just wanted to talk first," she said softly. He chuckled and moved closer. "Talk," he said. "We'll talk, but let me show you how special girls like you should be treated." As he leaned in, the cameras recorded everything: his words, his movements, his intentions. Outside, Ada's hands were clenched into fists. "We've got him," she whispered. "And Chidinma," she smiled. But deep inside, she knew. This was only the beginning. The moment Dr. Ajayi left the hotel, satisfied and unaware, Chidinma collapsed onto the bed. Her body was stiff, her hands shaking. Though nothing physical had happened, the tension of pretending, the weight of keeping her cool while disgust boiled inside, drained her completely. She took a long breath, picked up her phone, and called Ada. "It's done," she whispered. "We got everything." Back in Ada's car, Deo was already transferring the footage to an external drive. They replayed the clips in silence. The way he touched her hand, the way he promised her higher grades in exchange for silence, the way he said no one will believe you anyway. It was all there. Clear. Shameless. Chidinma stared at the screen, feeling a rush of emotion. Rage. Relief. Sadness. And something deeper, a fierce sense of purpose. The next step was delicate. Releasing the video themselves could backfire and be dismissed as revenge porn or manipulation. So they handed it to the Student Welfare Committee anonymously, with a note that read, "How many more students must suffer before something is done?" Within 24 hours, the campus erupted. WhatsApp groups exploded. The footage was leaked to student blogs. Twitter caught fire. Chidinma's face was blurred, but everyone recognized Dr. Ajayi. Petitions began. Outrage swept through the student body. The university, forced to respond, called an emergency disciplinary meeting. Within 3 days, Dr. Ajayi was suspended pending a full investigation. For the first time in weeks, Chidinma exhaled. He was gone. She had won, or so she thought. Because just when peace began to settle in, a new rumor surfaced. Dr. Ajayi was coming back. Chidinma was sitting in the cafeteria when she heard it, a whisper, then another, followed by gasps that spread like wildfire. At first, she thought it was just another twist of gossip, students exaggerating as usual. But when she checked her phone, her blood ran cold. A student group chat had posted a blurry photo. It was him, Dr. Ajayi, on campus, wearing sunglasses, walking toward the faculty building like nothing had happened. She froze. The cup of juice in her hand slipped slightly, spilling a bit on the table. "Is this a joke?" she muttered. Ada, seated across from her, was already refreshing Twitter and WhatsApp. "It's real," she said. "They're saying the VC called off the investigation. That Ajayi is back, reinstated, with honor restored." Chidinma couldn't believe it. Less than a week ago, the university had proudly suspended him. Students had protested, girls had come forward anonymously. It had felt like progress, like justice. And now, with just one phone call, he was back. No explanation, no public statement. Just back, like nothing happened. She stormed out of the cafeteria, her mind racing. Everything felt like a betrayal. She thought she'd won, but she had only scratched the surface. Dr. Ajayi wasn't just protected by silence, he was protected by power. And power, she was learning, ran deeper than she'd imagined. Back in her room that night, Chidinma stared at herself in the mirror. Her reflection was calm, but her eyes were burning. "If they think this is over," she whispered, "they haven't seen anything yet." The trap had been set once. Now it was time to set a bigger one. This time, for the entire system. Chidinma barely slept that night. Her mind was restless, fueled by betrayal and the bitter sting of injustice. She had done everything right, played smart, gathered evidence, followed due process. And still, the system swallowed it whole. By morning, she was back in her room, pacing in silence as Ada and Deo sat across from her, equally stunned. "He has people protecting him," Deo muttered. "People above even the student committee." Chidinma nodded slowly. He made one call. Just one. And his back like nothing happened. "That tells me everything I need to know." She picked up her notebook and began scribbling ideas. If the university wouldn't hold him accountable, then they would have to take their fight beyond the campus walls. It was time to expose the rut, not just Dr. Ajayi, but every hand that shielded him. Ada leaned forward, cautious. "This could get bigger than us. Kai, we're talking about shaking real structures now. Men with positions, with money, with silence bought and paid for." Chidinma didn't flinch. "Then let's make it loud." They decided to start digging. Deo reached out to alumni and older students who had quietly left after falling out with Dr. Ajayi. Ada began compiling the messages, the videos, the testimonies. And Chidinma? She started writing, not just her story, but their story. A detailed expose that would soon be titled Inside the System: How Universities Protect Predators. They weren't just students anymore. They were activists. And this wasn't just a scandal. It was a movement. Because now, Chidinma wasn't interested in bringing down only a man. She was coming for the whole foundation. For the next 2 weeks, Chidinma moved like a shadow across campus, calm on the outside, but burning within. She attended lectures, submitted her assignments, and smiled when spoken to. But behind the scenes, she was gathering firewood for a blaze that would not be ignored. She had stopped fearing Dr. Ajayi. What terrified her now was the realization that he was only a piece of a much larger machine. Ada had already interviewed 2 former students who confirmed what everyone suspected. Dr. Ajayi's behavior had been an open secret for years. "They told me to be quiet," one of them said through a voice recording. "That reporting him would only ruin my future, not his." Another shared screenshots of conversations with faculty members who had brushed off her complaints. "It's not that serious," one of the messages read. "Men will always be men." Deo, on his part, had uncovered disturbing details. Apparently, Dr. Ajayi's elder brother was a prominent politician and a top donor to the university. "No wonder he walks around like he owns the place," Deo said bitterly. "He basically does." That connection explained everything. The reinstatement, the fear, the silence. Chidinma was no longer naive. She now understood the cost of truth. But she also knew that silence was its own kind of prison. So she compiled everything they had into one single document: timelines, screenshots, testimonies, recorded audio, hotel footage, and prepared to send it to an independent online media outlet known for exposing injustice. She stared at the send button on her screen. Her finger hovered. If she pressed it, there was no going back. But then again, she had come too far to stop now. She pressed send, and the silence shattered. By morning, Gracefield University was on fire, not literally, but digitally. The independent blog Expose Nija had published the full report with the headline: "Lecturer Sexually Harasses Students. University Covers It Up." The article trended within hours. Names were redacted, but the description of Dr. Ajayi was unmistakable. So were the screenshots and voice notes. The comments section flooded with support, disbelief, and anger. Several girls from other universities even shared similar experiences under the hashtag #SchoolPredatorsMustFall. Chidinma watched the chaos unfold from her bed. She hadn't gone to class. She didn't need to. Her story had already reached the world. Ada and Deo were in her room, following the backlash online. The VC hasn't made a statement yet, Deo noted. But the school can't keep quiet for long. This is too big. Ada was already receiving anonymous messages from other students, some supportive, others clearly sent to intimidate them. They are scared, she said. That means it's working. Later that afternoon, the school released a short, carefully worded statement. We are aware of the viral allegations and have opened a new investigation. We urge the public to avoid jumping to conclusions until due process is followed. Chidinma scoffed. Due process? They already had that chance and threw it away. Still, the media attention meant more pressure, and more pressure meant cracks in the school's wall of silence. Already, a junior lecturer had anonymously confessed to knowing about Ajayi's behavior for years. He boasted about it at staff dinners. The message read, "We were all too scared to speak." For the first time, the system looked shaky. But with power on the line, Chidinma knew. The real battle hadn't even started yet. By the next day, Chidinma's name was everywhere. Though she had never mentioned it in the report, someone leaked it. A classmate posted a vague status. That girl with the big mouth finally thinks she's a hero. And within hours, people connected the dots. Some praised her. Others weren't so kind. Anonymous numbers sent her threats. A note was slipped under her door. You're playing with fire. Deo was furious. How did they find out? We covered our tracks. But Chidinma wasn't surprised. This school runs on whispers, she said quietly, and loyalty to the wrong people. Still, she didn't regret it. What hurt the most was seeing the betrayal on her class WhatsApp group. Some girls said she was clout chasing. Some boys laughed, calling her a drama queen who wanted attention. Why didn't she just reject him and move on? One message read. Ada tried to keep her focused. This is what happens when you touch untouchable people, she said. They turn the victim into the villain. But Chidinma wasn't shaken. If anything, the hate reminded her why she started this. The only way abusers stay powerful is when the world keeps protecting them. 2 days later, a small protest broke out in front of the admin building. Students held up placards reading, "Protect students, not predators, and we believe Chidinma." It wasn't massive, but it was enough to rattle the administration. Armed guards showed up. One protester was arrested. That night, campus police came knocking at Deo's off-campus hostel. They claimed he had violated student conduct rules. The warning was clear. Back down, or pay the price. But Chidinma had made her decision. She was all in. The arrest of the protester, Uche, sent shockwaves through the student body. He had simply been holding a sign, yet they dragged him to the campus police post like a criminal. His phone was confiscated, and he was suspended from school indefinitely. The message was clear: speak out, and you're next. Fear settled over Gracefield like a storm cloud. Students began deleting posts, removing hashtags from their bias, and distancing themselves from the issue entirely. Deo went into hiding for a few days, worried he'd be the next target. Chidinma, however, stayed put. She didn't want to live in fear. Let them come, she told Ada. What else are they going to do? Expel me for telling the truth. But deep down, the weight was getting heavier. Her mother called from Enugu, voice trembling. Chidi, I saw something online. Are you the girl they are talking about? She tried to deny it, but her mother knew. Please, my daughter, leave the matter. Just finish school quietly. You know how this country is. Chidinma felt torn. She didn't want to bring shame to her family. But how could she live with herself if she stayed silent? That night, she sat alone in her room, looking at her wall where she had once pinned dreams, a scholarship abroad, a master's degree, maybe working with the UN. But now, the wall stared back blankly. Was all of that at risk? Her phone buzzed. It was a message from another girl, one she didn't know. He did the same thing to me in my 200 level. I never had the courage to say anything. Thank you for standing up. Chidinma wiped her tears. Maybe her dreams were shifting, but her purpose was becoming clearer. 2 days later, Ada called Chidinma in a rush. Come to the media lab, she said. Now, you need to see this. Confused but curious, Chidinma hurried across campus, keeping her head down to avoid the stares. Whispers followed her wherever she went now, a mixture of admiration and judgment. When she arrived, Ada was alone in the editing suite, her face pale with disbelief. Look what someone sent to our anonymous inbox, she said, spinning the screen toward her. It was a folder. Inside were photos, videos, and email exchanges, all linking Dr. Ajayi to a secret slush fund sponsored by a high-profile donor. Apparently, the man had been laundering money through the university for years, and Dr. Ajayi was one of the middlemen. What's worse, there were screenshots of the Vice-Chancellor approving hush money payments to silence internal complaints, including 2 from previous sexual harassment cases. Chidinma stared at the screen, stunned. This is bigger than we thought. This wasn't just about harassment anymore. It was corruption. Deep, ugly, institutional corruption. Ada nodded. If we release this, we won't just expose Dr. Ajayi. We'll be bringing down the school's top management. For a moment, Chidinma said nothing. The weight of it all pressed down on her chest. The stakes had officially changed. This wasn't a fight for her dignity anymore. It was a battle for truth, the kind that could shake the university to its foundations. We'll need protection, Ada said carefully. If we release this, they won't just come for our academics. They'll come for our lives. Chidinma looked up slowly. Her voice was calm but sharp. Then we make it public in a way no one can ignore. And with that, the game changed. From personal revenge to public reckoning. That night, Chidinma, Ada, and Deo met in secret at a quiet cafe far from campus. Phones off. No digital trail. The stakes had gone from academic scandal to political exposure. They needed a strategy that protected them while ensuring the truth reached the right hands. We're not just dealing with Ajayi anymore, Deo said. This folder ties the Vice-Chancellor to financial fraud. If this leaks the wrong way, it might disappear, or worse, we might disappear. Chidinma nodded. So we go wide. Not just one media house. We give this to at least 3 national outlets at once, print, online, radio. And we timestamp it. Ada added, we create backup drives and store them in separate locations. If anything happens to one of us, someone else finishes the mission. They agreed on every detail. Names would remain redacted for now. They'd release evidence in layers, starting with the financial corruption to draw attention, then tie it back to the harassment cover-ups. Over the next 48 hours, they worked like a team of investigative journalists. Ada contacted her uncle, a journalist in Abuja, who confirmed he could pass the files directly to trusted editors. Deo arranged to meet a legal advisor who worked with student activists. Chidinma, meanwhile, quietly met with 2 more victims who agreed to record voice notes, not for publication, but to document the depth of Ajayi's manipulation and abuse. They didn't sleep. They didn't rest. They barely ate. They were preparing for war. And as dawn broke on Sunday morning, with all their drives backed up and media releases scheduled, Chidinma looked out the window and whispered, if the university won't protect us, the world will watch them burn. They tried to silence her. They tried to shame her. They tried to bury the truth. But what they didn't know was that she had already planted a revolution. This isn't just one girl's fight. It's the beginning of something bigger. Because when one voice rises, others follow. And now, the system is shaking. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe for more powerful stories that speak truth to power. This story isn't over. It's just getting louder.